Hi again, everyone. I'm Lauren O'Quinn. We always appreciate hearing the NSG perspective, and we're fortunate to have Dustin Gard-Weiss join us today. Dustin is the chair of the GEOCOM, the GEOINT National Committee of Record, and the director of the Office of Geospatial Intelligence Management. Hi, Dustin. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. How about yourself?
Great. We're glad to have you here today.
It's great to be here.
So, how do you define functional management, and why is it important?
So functional management is actually defined in executive order, DoD directive, Intel community directive, and so that verbiage exists. But for me, the way that I look at it is it's really about how do we enable our enterprise across the National System for Geospatial Intelligence, or NSG, to work most effectively together, to not only support the individual missions of each organization, but also how do we bring those capabilities to bear across enterprise missions. And that's very prominent in our new strategy. We have professionalization, interoperability, and unity of effort. And so it's about coalescing our enterprise around those three primary objectives or goals and leveraging and harnessing the best of each member of our enterprise and then bringing that together to create really something that's greater than the sum of its parts.
Now, you've released the updated NSG strategy. What's new or different from the 2013 to 2018 strategy and how NSG members drive data to decision making?
So if you look at the strategy side by side, you'll see that one really builds on the success of the other. So our new strategy, our 2016 strategy, I believe it really represents where we are today with our enterprise, the perspective of the current GEOINT functional manager, myself coming into this position in the last 6 months, and also the members of our enterprise. So soon after I arrived in this position, we went out to our enterprise and we asked, how are we doing? And also, where are their priorities? And then we looked at those against the current strategy. And what we found is there were some similarities, some overlap, but there are also some areas where we really wanted to focus. And so that's where professionalization, interoperability, and unity of effort really came into being. But you'll see a common thread from one into the next. The other thing that this reflects is this changing dynamic, the world that we're confronting today, which not to say that it's changed dramatically over the last 3 or 4 years, but many of the things that we talked about then are really coming to fruition, and we really see them confronting us in ways that we maybe didn't necessarily then. So whether it be the commercial space industry, whether it be the deluge of non-traditional sources of information, things like that, and working together in different ways that again are reflected in our current strategy.
That makes sense. So NGA Director Robert Cardillo talks about the importance of persistence. How can the NSG enterprise help the community achieve persistence?
So he also talks about persistence in the context of a shift in mindset, right? So a shift in mindset away from I would say, the traditional highly classified sources of information to a mindset where you're embracing all relevant sources of information that, again, apply to a particular mission set or a problem set or an analytic question or an information need. And so our NSG partners are absolutely great contributors to that as we look at sources of information that they may have access to, and then also how do we look at the information needs, the mission needs from our enterprise, and how do we look at the sources of information and how we marry those up, right? So information sources that we may not necessarily be thinking of as able to provide some additional insight or amplification or even some relevant content to those mission needs or information needs. We are harnessing that and bringing that together through the GEOINT committee that I chair, and specifically through the various subcommittees that underpin the GEOCOM. So
what can industry and academia do to help achieve the NSG strategic priorities?
So industry and academia are key partners. They are actually captured in the definition of the NSG, and so they are prominent there. But I think increasingly prominent as we move forward. I think there's a recognition, and certainly I see a reflection that within the government we don't have all the answers, and certainly the information sources that we're looking at are not necessarily relevant. They are not coming from government sources anymore. In the past, absolutely, the large contribution in the GEOINT realm was from government sources, more traditional sources of information. As we move forward, that's not necessarily the case. There's absolutely a place for those government sources of information, but it is not only limited there. So the answers, right, and the unique sources of information, and whether it be technologies or capabilities or ways of approaching a particular issue, again, we rely on the contributions and the perspective that academia and industry bring.
So you've mentioned professionalization a couple times. It's a key tenet of your strategy. Tell us why certification is such a critical part of the NSG success, and how do you get everyone on board?
So first and foremost, yes, absolutely it is a central theme in our strategy. And I would also say that everyone is on board. It is mandatory right now for NGA and the DoD components and we're expanding that to the NSG in the coming months and years. So why is it important? So I believe that certification enables us to work more seamlessly and effectively together. So first and foremost, it's about the people who comprise our enterprise. And so what this does is this provides a common foundation and a common framework through which to be able to understand our enterprise workforce, to understand how they're approaching their issues, ensuring that they're doing so in a common way, and then also bringing those people to bear against not only the mission requirements and imperatives of the organization in which they're a part, but also having the conversation about how those people can play a greater role across the enterprise. So for me, I almost think about it as having confidence in the work, in the output, in the contributions of each member of our enterprise, which enables us, I believe, to work more effectively and seamlessly together.
Very interesting stuff, Dustin, and you explained it so well. Thanks
Thank
so much
you.
for stopping by.
Thank you again.
I've been speaking with Dustin Gard-Weiss, Chair of the GEOCOM and the Director of the Office of Geospatial Intelligence Management. More Trajectory on Location coming up.